Sagittarius, final warning. Someone is secretly trying to sabotage your love and career. Be careful with this zodiac sign on June 18th and 20th. There is a kind of imprisonment that has no doors, no chains, no screams. It's wrapped in gentle advice, seemingly sincere hugs, and the worried eyes of those who just want the best for you. And if you're a Sagittarius, a soul born in the shape of an arrow destined to fly, then you understand that pain more deeply than anyone. It's when you begin to self-censor, not because you fear being wrong, but because you're afraid of hurting someone else, afraid of being called too blunt, too dreamy, too impulsive. You start shrinking. You speak less of what you truly think. Share less of what you truly dream. Do less of what once made you feel alive, just because you fear others might think you're too different. But Sagittarius, you weren't born to fit into someone else's vision. You were born to become an arrow of light, to fly toward the truth, even when no one believes in you, walks beside you, or cheers you on. In the astrological map, when Jupiter, your ruling planet, enters a tense alignment with Mercury and Saturn, as it will on June 18th and 20th, it's not just an external shift. It's a fated inner calling, a moment where you are forced to answer one single question. Do you live to be accepted, or do you live to protect the sacred fire within you? Because maybe you haven't realized it yet, but you're being held back. Not by clear enemies, not by someone directly forbidding your path, but by those closest to you, those who love you in their own way. Yet use that love to mold you into a version that's no longer wild. They say you need to be more stable, dream less, be more realistic. Adults don't live on passion. They don't tie you down. They just whisper a slow kind of honey into your ears, until, piece by piece, you lock the doors to your biggest dreams yourself. Nostradamus once wrote, "When the arrow is no longer released, it's not because it broke, but because the hand holding it was manipulated by a smile." And I know, Sagittarius, you once prepared carefully for a new journey, but then someone made you wonder, am I being selfish? You were once so close to a decision your soul knew was right, but you sat back down, afraid someone might be disappointed. You once stepped up to speak, to leave your comfort zone, to move toward what you longed for, and turned around at the doubtful glance of someone you love. No one forbade you, and that's what traps you even more, because there's no clear reason to leave, just a vague ache inside, that something precious is slipping away, and no one else sees it. Buddha taught, no one can save the one who lights a fire but is afraid to let it burn. And you, a fire sign, have dimmed yourself for far too long. You've lived softly so you wouldn't scorch anyone. You've stayed quiet so you wouldn't blind them. You've shrunk your ideals so you wouldn't be labeled too much. But all of that has led you astray. Not because you lack energy, but because you're using that energy to circle around a kind of approval that will never come. Today, this video is not a motivation. It's a warning that if you keep slowing your own steps just to maintain this fake peace around you, you will lose the only thing that makes you truly alive: your freedom. And if you lose your freedom, you're no longer Sagittarius. You're just a shadow living a life that looks calm but isn't real. If you feel something stirring in your heart, if it feels like the universe is whispering back to you an old calling you once ignored, then hit like to preserve this fire that's beginning to burn again. Leave a comment below with just one sentence: I do not apologize for living in alignment with my light. As a sign you've crossed the first gate, share this video with any Sagittarius living in a golden cage, or anyone who's ever held back for being called too different. And subscribe, not just to follow, but to keep the fire burning. Because not everyone is born to keep the peace. But if you're still reading this, then you were born to shift the wind. Sagittarius, the arrow of truth, don't let someone else hold your bowstring and teach you how to fly. There is a kind of cage with no bars, no locks, no guards. But once you step inside, you slowly forget that you ever knew how to fly. It's built from reasonable suggestions, woven with rules that seem to make sense, and painted with what people call the maturity of being realistic. And strangely, you don't feel pain. You just feel like you should. You should slow down. You should be more practical. You should choose stability. You should settle for things that seem good enough. But Sagittarius, you were never born to live inside the lines of enough. You were born to break out of them, to fly, to break boundaries, to ask the questions no one dares ask, and to live the life no one else is brave enough to live. And yet now you're beginning to shrink your dreams to fit into what's reasonable. You've let go of choices just because others deemed them too unstable. You've slowed your steps just because someone said, "Don't go too fast." You've bent your intuition just to avoid making others uncomfortable with your truth. Astrology makes it clear, between June 18th and 20th, Jupiter, your ruling planet of ideals, beliefs, philosophy and inner light, will clash hard with Mercury, communication, persuasion, mental noise, and Saturn, limitation, rules, structural pressure. This is a time when you'll be lured into decisions that sound logical, but pull you away from the true mission of your soul. Maybe someone advises you to pick a safer job. Maybe your family wants you to choose a nicer relationship. Maybe you are trying to convince yourself that your dream is too big, too unrealistic. But Buddha said, "The mistake does not lie in what we haven't done, but in living against the voice that has already awakened in our heart." And that voice in you, Sagittarius, has never loved stability. You love meaning, freedom, the leap, the quest. The only thing that can truly kill a Sagittarius is not pain. It's the kind of rightness that doesn't belong to you. In love, you're being drawn into requests that sound very reasonable. Be softer. Don't dream too much. Love means being less difficult. You're expected to become a version that's less fiery, less blunt, more agreeable, easier to manage. But Sagittarius, love doesn't ask you to dim your flame. True love stands still in front of the fire. And if someone only loves you when you make your light smaller, then that's not love. That's manipulation wrapped in the disguise of care. In your career, maybe a boss, a friend or a colleague is nudging you toward a safer route. But what you hear inside isn't agreement. It's the sound of a bowstring snapping as your arrow is forced to point to the ground instead of the sky. Nostradamus once wrote, "When the flame is preached to temper itself, it learns to burn inward." And that's exactly what you're feeling. You're no longer angry at anyone. But you're quietly burning, a kind of fire from a soul that knows it's drifting away from its true flight path. If something in your heart just struck a silent note, if you realize that a dream you once craved is now fading, not because you gave up on it, but because you've been trying too hard to be reasonable, then this is your awakening. Hit like, if you know a part of your inner light is coming back. Comment below, "I don't live for what's reasonable. I live for what's true to my soul." As a fated declaration. Share this video with anyone living in a velvet cage made of good advice. And subscribe, not just to follow, but so that every time you forget who you truly are, you'll have a place to return and remember. Arrows were not made to stay in the ground. They were born to fly. Sagittarius, if someone tells you that you need to slow down to grow up, smile, because they don't realize this one truth: you only grow when you keep flying. And now it's time to pull that arrow back out of the dirt. Fly, so truth can return and destiny can begin. Dangerous people don't stop you. They just make you stop yourself. There's a kind of imprisonment that has no bars, no locks, no guards. And yet, once you've stepped inside, you slowly forget you ever knew how to fly. It's built from well-meaning suggestions, woven together by seemingly logical principles, and painted over with a layer called mature morality. And strangely, it doesn't hurt. You just feel like you should. You should do that. You should slow down. You should be more realistic. You should choose stability. You should hold on to what seems enough. But Sagittarius, you were never born to live in the confines of enough. You were born to break free from it, to soar, to shatter limitations, to ask the questions no one dares ask, and to live a life few ever have the courage to live. Yet now you're starting to trim your dreams just so they'll fit within what's reasonable. You've walked away from choices simply because others didn't think they were stable. You've slowed your pace because someone said, "Don't go too fast." You've bent your intuition just to keep others from being uncomfortable with your honesty. Astrologically, between June 18th and 20th, Jupiter, the planet of vision, truth, philosophy, and your inner light, will be struck hard by Mercury, words, information, persuasion, and Saturn, limits, rules, systemic pressure. This is a time when you'll be lured into decisions that seem reasonable, but pull you further away from your soul's true mission. Someone might suggest a safer career path. Your family might want you in a more agreeable relationship. Or maybe you're convincing yourself that the dream is too big, too unrealistic. But Buddha once said, "The real mistake is not in what you haven't done, but in living against a voice that's already awakened in your heart." And that voice in you, Sagittarius, has never been drawn to stability. You crave meaning, freedom, leaps, and the journey. The only thing that can ever kill a Sagittarius isn't pain. It's rightness that was never meant for you. In love, you're starting to be steered by expectations that sound reasonable. You should be gentler. Don't dream so much. Love means being sensible. You're expected to become a version of yourself that's less fiery, less blunt, more adorable, more manageable. But Sagittarius, real love doesn't ask you to dim your fire. Real love can stand still in front of the flame. And if someone only loves you when you shrink your fire, that's not love. That's control disguised as concern. In career, maybe a boss, a friend, a colleague is encouraging you to choose a more secure direction. But what you're hearing inside isn't agreement. It's the sound of a bowstring snapping as the arrow is forced to point downward instead of shooting toward the sky. Nostradamus once wrote, "When fire is preached to learn restraint, it learns to burn inward." And that is exactly what you're feeling. You're no longer angry at anyone, but you're starting to burn silently, a kind of fire from a soul that knows it's drifting away from its true trajectory. If something in your heart just touched a quiet chord, if you're realizing that something you once longed for is now fading, not because you gave it up, but because you've tried to be reasonable, then this is your moment to awaken. Tap like if you know there's a piece of your light starting to return. Comment below, "I don't live for what's reasonable. I live for what's real to my soul." As a declaration of destiny, share this video with anyone living in a velvet cage of moral logic. And subscribe to this channel, not just to follow, but so that any time you forget your true essence, you'll have a place to return to, a reminder that An arrow was never made to be pinned to the ground. It was made to fly. Sagittarius, if anyone ever tells you that you need to stop in order to grow, just smile. Because they don't know this one truth. You only grow when you keep flying. And now, it's time to pull out that arrow that's been stuck in the ground for too long. Fly, so truth can return and destiny can begin. June 18th and 20th, the moment the arrow must choose to fly or break. There are days that pass like any other, but then there are days when your soul knows, without any bell ringing, without anyone calling your name, without a single sign, that this is the day marking a crossroads you can never return from. June 18th is one of those days. A conversation, seemingly harmless, seemingly well-intentioned, seemingly caring, will take place. The other person could be a lover, a close friend, a colleague, or someone with significant influence in your life. They will speak with a gentle tone. They won't raise their voice. But each word, each phrase, each glance will carefully etch into you one single message, that you're not enough, that you should reconsider yourself, that your ideals are still immature. And you, Sagittarius, always open, always listening, always receptive, will begin to tremble subtly on the inside. Not trembling from emotion, but trembling from doubt. You'll start looking at yourself not through the eyes of your own soul, but through the standards of someone else. And if you are not conscious, you'll do the one thing Sagittarius never wants to do: trade your light for approval. June 20th will mark a second moment, but this time it won't be through words. It will come through action. Someone will make a decision for your sake. A decision that seems more logical, more effective, more practical. It might be in your career. You get reassigned to a different role, a new direction, an alternative plan. It might be in love. Someone chooses for you because they believe you're lost. But deep inside, you know that path isn't yours. And you will have two choices: either stay silent, nod, keep going along just to preserve the relationship, the peace, the illusion of reasonable harmony, or you stand up and say, I no longer need anyone to choose the path I walk. Buddha taught, the one riding the horse must know when to release the reins so the horse can return to its true path. You, Sagittarius, are not someone who likes control, but you also cannot allow others to direct your soul based on what they think is best. And these 2 days, June 18th and 20th, are the moments your inner arrow must choose, to fly or to break. Break, not because someone snapped you, but because you no longer dare to pull your own bowstring strong enough. Fly, not because someone pushed you, but because you dare to hold to a trajectory no one else approves of. In the astrological chart, when Jupiter is caught between the pressure of Mercury's words and Saturn's rigid rules, you'll feel external voices louder than ever. You'll feel confused, distracted, worried. If I go the path I choose, will I end up alone? Will I fail? Will I hurt someone? And in that very moment, destiny is testing you, not through pain, but through things that seem safe, not through crisis, but through gentle hands placed on your shoulders, pulling you softly back to the familiar. Nostradamus once wrote, "When an arrow lies too long in someone else's hand, it forgets it once knew how to fly." And you, if you're still letting others decide your speed, your direction, even your ideals, then that's no longer freedom. That's a beautiful life, but not a real one. And nothing pains Sagittarius more than that. Because you don't live to be liked. You live to blaze trails, to call truth by its name, to be the light, even when it blinds some. If you feel your heart growing quiet, if you just remembered a recent piece of advice that made you shrink, if you're living a life someone else mapped out and calling it stability, then stop. Click, like to lock in this moment of awakening now rising within you. Comment below, "I choose to pull my own bowstring," as a signal to the universe that you're ready to return. Share this video with someone who gave up on themselves because of a logical suggestion. And subscribe to the channel if you need a space that reminds you, true light never needs to be justified. Sagittarius, today you could follow that advice. You could nod to that decision. You could make yourself smaller one more time. But one day, you won't hear your own voice anymore. And that is what's truly terrifying. Not failure, but living a life where you can no longer hear the call of your own soul. The awakening ritual of fire, returning freedom to the heart. There are flames that aren't extinguished by water, but by conditional praise. There are passions that don't fade because of lack of ability, but because you once believed someone who said, "It's not reasonable." And there are souls born to soar, who chose to stay simply because they forgot how to draw their bowstring again. Sagittarius, you don't need another pep talk. You need a ritual. Not so someone else can validate you, but so that you can remember who you were before the world told you to fit in. Because fire, if not lit at the right time, will turn to smoke, and smoke guides no one. But you weren't born to become smoke. You are the first spark, the ignition of hope, the lightning bolt that opens dreams too wild for words. But to return to that, you need a real ritual, a sacred act, a fire ceremony, not for witnesses, but for your own presence, honesty, and willingness to reignite the flame buried in ashes. Tonight, gift yourself a silent moment. Turn off all noise. Choose a sacred space, your balcony, a quiet corner, or the place where you once allowed yourself to dream freely. Place in front of you a red candle, or if not, any candle that holds the energy of life to you. Prepare a blank piece of paper and begin with this question. What did I once give up just because someone said it wasn't realistic? Write down three things you once deeply desired. It could be a project you never started, a relationship you never dared to pursue, a lifestyle you always believed belonged to someone else. Write without editing. Write without judgment. Write without anger. Just record it, as a way to name the old parts of your soul you left untouched for too long. Then, write down one true sentence, a sentence you've never said out loud, one that brings tears to your eyes every time you think of it, but you've always chosen silence. Maybe, "I've never truly lived the way I wanted to," or "I've held it together too long so no one would see how afraid I was," or "I've lived to be loved, not to be free." Write it, fold the paper, gently place it beneath the candlelight, and burn it, not to erase, but to reignite. In the moment the paper turns to fire, speak softly or say clearly in your mind, "I don't light fire to warm others, I am the fire." Repeat 3 times, each time slower, deeper, fuller. Each time peeling off another layer from the rigid corners of your mind. Each time calling back a piece of your soul that was once frozen under the name the reasonable one. This isn't just a ritual. This is an act of reclaiming the flame, of reclaiming the original self of Sagittarius, unapologetic, untamed, unbothered by being misunderstood, unbothered by being unloved. In astrology, when Jupiter, the planet of expansion and ideals, is pressed down by Saturn and Mercury as it will be mid-June, this ritual isn't just meditation. It's resistance to an invisible force, the collective mindset of safe living. You can't keep living on average goals. You can't plan 5 years ahead just to be praised for being stable. Because stability is not the same as living. Nostradamus once wrote, The first who dares to relight the flame in darkness will become the map for all sleeping souls. And you, Sagittarius, you are that one, if you dare. If you dare to stop delaying. If your heart is burning warmer right now, for no reason, no clear goal, just something inside you whispering, yes, it's time to come back. Then press like to anchor that awakening energy within you. Comment below. I am the fire, not a light someone else switched on. As a soul sigil you send into the ether. Share this video with anyone who ever gave up on themselves quietly, just to be called well-behaved. And subscribe to this channel so that whenever you need another ritual, another bell, another deeper call, you know exactly where to return. Sagittarius, the world doesn't need another safe person. The world needs a real flame. And if you've ever waited for someone to give you permission to come alive again like you once were, then today the universe isn't giving you permission. The universe is giving you a ritual. 18 and 20. The moment the arrow must choose to fly or break. Some days pass like any other, but then there are days when your soul just knows, without a single bell ringing, without anyone calling your name, that this is the day that marks a turning point from which there is no return. June 18th is one of those days. A conversation, seemingly harmless, seemingly constructive, seemingly rooted in care, will take place. That person might be a lover, a friend, a co-worker, or someone influential in your life. They will speak gently. They won't raise their voice. But every word, every tone, every glance will subtly carve a message into you. That you are not enough. That you should reevaluate yourself. That your ideals are still immature. And you, Sagittarius, always open-minded, always receptive, always expansive, will begin to tremble slightly inside. Not from emotion, but from doubt. You will start to view yourself not through the eyes of your own soul, but through the standards of someone else. And if you're not alert, you'll do something a Sagittarius never truly wants to do. Exchange your light for approval. June 20th will mark a second moment, not through words, but through action. Someone will make a decision on your behalf. A choice that seems more reasonable, more efficient, more practical. Maybe at work. You're placed in a different role, a different direction, a safer path. Maybe in love. Someone makes a decision for you because they think you're lost. But deep inside, you know that path isn't yours. And you will face two choices. Either stay silent, nod, go along with it to maintain the relationship, the harmony, the image of being reasonable. Or you stand up and say, I don't need anyone choosing my path for me anymore. Buddha taught, the one who rides the horse must know when to loosen the reins, so the horse can return to its true direction. You, Sagittarius, are not someone who craves control, but you also cannot let others steer your soul under the illusion of what's best. These 2 days, June 18th and 20th, will be the moment your inner arrow must choose, fly or break. Break, not because someone bent it, but because you no longer dare to draw the bow strong enough. Fly, not because someone pushed you, but because you have the courage to hold your own trajectory even when no one agrees. In the astrological chart, as Jupiter becomes trapped between Mercury's persuasive words and Saturn's rigid principles, you will hear external voices louder than ever. You'll feel scattered, anxious, and ask, if I follow my chosen path, will I be alone? Will I fail? Will I hurt someone? And that exact moment is when destiny is testing you, not through pain, but through what seems safe, not through crisis, but through gentle hands placed on your shoulder, pulling you back to the familiar. Nostradamus once wrote, when the arrow lies too long in another's hand, It forgets that it once flew. And if you're still letting others decide your speed, your direction, your ideals, then that's no longer freedom. That's a beautiful life, but not a true one. And nothing hurts Sagittarius more than that. Because you don't live to be liked. You live to pave paths, to name the truth, to be the light, even if others find it too bright. If your heart feels still, if a recent helpful suggestion made you shrink, if you're living a life someone else designed and calling it stable, then stop. Press like to capture this moment of awakening. Comment below, "I choose to draw my own bow," as a signal to the universe that you're ready to return. Share this video with someone who once gave up their true self because of a well-meaning piece of advice. And subscribe to this channel, not just to continue your journey, but so that when you almost forget, there will be a place that calls you back to your real fire. Sagittarius, today you might nod to that advice. You might accept that decision. You might soften yourself one more time, but one day you'll stop hearing your own voice, and that's the true fear, not failure, but living without ever again hearing the call of your soul.